Welcome, everybody, to Nothing Less Than Extraordinary. I am super thrilled to have Brian with me today. And what a great time, like during the Christmas holiday. What a perfect timing to be connecting with Brian. So, Brian, I want to be able to say it's Brian Marina. Oh, no, did I mess that up?
Mariani.
Mariani. Oh, God, I was practicing in my head and I messed that up.
It's
Mariani.
all the
I
gifts
got
and
it.
traveling. Everyone's got a million things on their mind right now. The last thing that matters is my last name, I promise you.
I like your last name. I'm sure so many people like your last name. It makes me always think of these beautiful movie. Every time you say it, it has like a romantic ring to it. So it's like it makes me feel like I want to eat pasta and seafoods and wine and stuff.
It's so funny you say pasta because in high school, my nickname was marinara sauce.
No, no. Who doesn't love marinara sauce?
Exactly.
And you'll get to discover Brian. He's very lovable as well. And on top of that, before we said that, I said, for all the girls out there, Brian is actually right now single. So he's up for grab, just putting out there in the universe.
In this moment in time. This is correct.
Exactly at this moment in time. He might not be by the time you guys reach out to him.
You never know.
Don't know.
There could be some mistletoe in the air over the holidays. Who knows?
Exactly. Don't know. We'll just go with the flow. And today's topic, I'm going to have such an amazing time because he's so easy to talk with. So today's topic, we're going to be talking about owning our past and connecting with others at a soul level, which is what Brian and I was able to do. And he reached out to me to really help out. And just the way he listened, the way he really empathized with my story and is so helpful in wanting to help me prosper and expand in my business. It's a genuineness that they do exist. There's a lot of great people out there, but the kind of person like this, they're rare. So I feel grateful to actually have the opportunity that our paths cross. So thank you so much for that, Brian.
Likewise. Very grateful to be here, Ree. I agree on both sides.
Thank you. And I want to be able to honor your life story, Brian. I want to be able to know a small little story. We started about how you grew up. I want to be able to know what was Brian like when he was a young child. Sure. And what big dream did he have? What silliness did he got himself into to coming to the path of what he's doing now? Because Brian is a founder of No Shift Own. He's an elite performance coach and a startup consultant business since 2018. So he's been doing this for a while and he knows what he's talking about. So I can't wait to unravel all of that. But let's start with your childhood memory, Brian.
Yeah, it's interesting. When I go back to childhood, I was absolutely the weird kid. I was the outsider. I felt that way always. And it was a huge part of that was the fact that my parents were, I would say, exceptionally progressive. This was back in the late 80s, early 90s, 2000s when I was, a baby child and young teenager. And my dad was a pioneer in the world of alternative health. Okay. And my mom was, if you asked my mom what her profession was back then, she would say storyteller. Oh. That's what she identified as. She still does. Yeah. And so, back then it was very popular for kids to have, fruit roll-ups in their lunch bags and Lunchables and peanut butter and fluff sandwiches and Snackables and Dunkaroos. Brian's lunchbox didn't really look like that. Brian's lunchbox had organic foods and he drank soy milk and ate blue-green algae. And his life was a little bit different. And, one of the jokes with the few friends that I was able to make, every time I'd go over for a play date, let alone a sleepover, the other mom would always comment, "We have to do a double shopping. Brian's coming over. He's going to eat." everything in our house because I had just never been around that type of food. Can you imagine the
Yeah.
kid eating the soya milk and the
Mm-hmm.
organic whole grain oats and things? I go
Mm-hmm.
to a house where there's a Pop-Tart. I'm not having one. There's no way I could have one. so so it was like it was very I was very fortunate
Mm-hmm.
over time
Yeah.
to have been given those types of foods and that kind of education from day one. Of course,
Yeah.
today I'm exceptionally grateful. But
Mm-hmm.
back then it was weird and I was an outsider and I felt that way.
Yeah.
And a huge part of my growing up was really doing anything I could possibly do to feel normal and to
Mm-hmm.
fit in.
Mm-hmm.
And so really the way that I did that was sports. I was very lucky. My dad was an exceptional athlete. My mom was a dancer. And so put the two of them together, I excelled very quickly and naturally in pretty much any sport.
Mm-hmm.
And that allowed me to kind of hedge the strangeness. It was like, he's super weird, but we keep winning when he's on the team. So it's like, we're just gonna roll with it. So that kind of allowed me to I think be in circles and social situations that
Mhm.
if I was just the weird kid with the foods and the
Yeah,
drinks,
yeah,
it would have been a lot harder.
yeah.
It still felt hard for me. I know that might be hard for people to understand, but in my experience,
Mhm.
it was very difficult. And gosh, it's taken a long, long time. I'm sitting here 34 years old and I kind of feel like I'm starting to figure things out.
Mhm.
So it's, but that's a little bit about my kind of upbringing. It was
Mhm.
very fortunate because I had foundations of incredible food and love and
Mhm.
those types of opportunities.
Yeah.
But I always felt like I was outside of the circle.
Mhm.
And it's taken me a long time to bridge
Mhm.
those things for myself.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I think for a lot of youth out there, and even for ourselves, I think very highly successful people often feel like an outcast. I used to feel like an outcast myself as a kid. I always thought I was an alien, like in a human body. What
Right.
is this planet called Earth? Okay. I just never felt like I thought the same way as regular people did. And I always thought that was somehow dysfunctional or abnormal as who I am. And it took me a long time, like 40 something years, to realize, hey, wait a minute, that's kind of unique.
Mm,
That's once you embrace it, once you learn to be comfortable in that skin of yours, and well, it took quite a bit of challenges, but once you start to accept who you are and take, really take fruit of that and make the best out of it, that's really where you're going to excel. That's why people are going to go, hey, I like you. You're not like everybody else. But when we were younger, we just wanted to fit in. Don't we all
totally.
do? We still do. Even as adult, when you go to, I remember when I went to Brazil, in a fancy restaurant. I've never been to a fancy restaurant where you had like how do you call that? Like not a chauffeur, like you park your car and there's a valley. Like he would come take your car, and then there'd be somebody kind of like hosting you into the restaurant, and everybody would dress fancy, and there'd be like waiter at every table serving you food and dessert. I was like, boy, do I feel out of place.
Yeah. Exactly.
But it was a good experience. And I look at that as going, I wonder, don't we all feel like that most of the time? And so I made a funny experience about it, just being myself, eating, testing the food, and just going, I am so glad I can feel okay now. Whereas when I was younger, I wanted to fit in. But the one thing that I had when I was a young kid was the internal compass of feeling like I'm abnormal by being different, and yet feeling that it is okay to be different, even though society tells me I should assimilate. even though they tell me I should be like everybody else. So sport, like you mentioned, is another good way of kind of like an escape. And yes, you excel very well, but that wasn't your natural nature to be in that element. You did good because genetically, because family wise, you were pass on these ability, but at the same time, you're trying to figure out who really Brian is,
Mhm.
not in the eye of what people wanted you to be.
Yeah, it's very, very true, and it's something that everyone goes through in
Mm,
their own way.
yeah.
I'm sitting here telling my story, and all of those kids that I thought were quote unquote normal or in circles that felt very familiar that I felt outside of, I'm
Mhm.
sure each of them would tell maybe a similar
Similar.
story than I just did.
Mhm.
It's very um that's one thing about growing up that was really startling to me.
Yeah.
Um because I viewed my parents as my experience of them was as adults. They were real adults to me. And as I started growing up, I'd go over to a friend's house and maybe their parents were split, or maybe there was like real challenges going on. And I witnessed adults doing things that were very confusing to me, like,
Mhm.
drinking with their kids and partying and, you know, having relationships that seemed a little bit strange.
Mhm.
I had friends of mine that when we were in our early teenage years, the men were in their, let's say, 50s,
Mhm.
and they'd have a girlfriend who was in their 20s or
Mm,
something
mhm.
like that.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just trying to kind of figure that out.
Yeah.
And what I realized as I grew up, it was that being an adult is a really hard thing to define. And
Yeah.
it's definitely not defined by age. And I
Mhm.
think the more thing that I started to understand was it's really more about maturity and
Mhm.
responsibility. It's
Mhm.
not about age. Someone at
Mhm.
10 years old could have a really high maturity that
Yeah.
someone at 30 years old wouldn't have. And so that was a really interesting experience to become a teenager and a young man, and someone who was looking around and going, wow, being a socially humanitarian conscious person
Mhm.
is about an individual journey
Mhm.
and not about what society tells you you are.
Yeah.
And that was a really interesting thing to understand. And it's a constant journey. You don't ever get there. You're just
Mhm.
kind of in the process of playing that game. And some
Yeah.
people play it all out and they play it really, really well.
Mhm.
And most people don't even know that there's a game like that to play.
Mhm.
And I think that's a huge motivation for me is I want to play with a lot of people who are in that game. It's
Yeah.
just a lot more fun.
Yeah, yeah,
It's why
yeah.
we're having this conversation because
Yes.
we're in that game together, right? And
Mhm.
we're on different paths, but we're saying we want to be our best selves and we want to be someone who's kind. We want to be
Yeah.
someone who's empathetic. We want to be someone who can provide for the people we love.
Yeah.
Maybe we even want to be someone that can inspire.
Mhm.
And uh, it's also at the same moment the realization and the humbleness to say, well, I certainly can't do that alone. And the
Mhm.
more people I'm doing that with, the
Mhm.
better chance we have of really up leveling community and even the world.
Yeah, because we're raising the vibration, right? So
Exactly.
when we're connected to similar soul, your souls and my soul, although we don't know each other yet, we feel a familiarity of a
Right.
comfort. There's something innately known that, oh, I recognize this soul.
And
So,
that's
mhm,
I just want to spotlight that. That's really important because it kind of shines a light on what I shared earlier about not fitting in.
yeah.
Um, as a result of my own personal journey and the adaptations and the habits and the experiences that have helped me grow to where I am today,
Mhm,
I'm actually attracting people like you
mhm,
into my world.
Yeah.
And that's happening constantly because I'm showing up that way.
Yeah.
Whereas like back then, I'm just a kid, I'm kind of lost. And I'm like bouncing off of all these social circles and feeling like I don't know where I land
Yeah.
because I didn't know enough. I didn't know myself well enough to know
Mm.
who I wanted to be,
Mm.
or anything like that.
It's true that you mentioned that because I started to notice that naturally you came to me and then I had some other people connected to me and their soul is it's not that prior to that it wasn't great, but now it feels like I have like a pool of like quality connecting. So it's hard to describe, but I feel in my element. I feel like those are my people to play with, you know?
Mhm.
And it's an amazing feeling because when you're at that vibration and everybody is doing their very best to be their best version of who they are, then we push each other to go higher and higher. And when the frequency of the vibration raises, it raises up everybody. And that's why I think to be humble enough to realize, okay, I have my own strength and my own power, yet there's nothing like combining them together. I used to watch the show called Captain Planet. I
Mhm.
don't know if you know it. It's where they have a ring and they would call like on the superhero, each ring like red, blue, green, and they would put their force and energy together to come and call on a superhero. And there was Mother Earth as well. And so everybody had a strength to contribute to together. So it was basically that alone we can succeed, but together we're much stronger. And I like that concept very much.
Yeah, it really goes to the best definition is that I could think of right now is innate nature, kind
Yeah.
of across the board human innate nature.
Yeah.
Think it's very cheesy. It sounds even silly and cheesy to say it, but the
Mm,
reason why so many humans are attracted to a symphony, there's
mhm,
a reason why think about this, like a Mozart symphony
mhm,
has been a number one hit
mhm,
for hundreds of years.
mhm,
There's a reason for that. Today you have a Billboard hit and it lasts a week or a
mhm,
couple weeks
mhm,
and there's
mhm.
popular songs, but
Yeah.
those types of musical combinations
Yeah.
are simply frequencies
Yeah.
that are put together and the right frequencies are
Mhm,
fitting and
mhm,
they're creating
mhm.
a community of frequency that plays exceptionally well together. And you can
Yes.
take that and you can put it into a relationship between two
Mm,
people and you can
mhm.
expand that out.
Yeah.
And it's to your point earlier about vibration and frequency. It's saying, well, if we all start to figure out our own self energetically and our own frequency, we
Mhm,
start emitting that. And
mhm.
then when you start finding people that vibrate in that frequency,
Yeah.
it's quite extraordinary what can happen.
And that's a really beautiful analogy. I love the example of it because I finally grasped it. Okay, I get it. Before I was like, yeah, okay, so together with other people who are connecting at the same soul level with the same value and kind of bathing in that, it feels amazing. But when you said about the symphony, why I like, at the same note, and you can kind of detect as well. You learn to detect your kind of people too, and it is a good way to get to know the kind of people that you want to do business with as entrepreneur. I think that's the beauty of it, is to be able to pick and choose who you want to collaborate and work with and build beautiful arts and projects. Hopefully it can expire and also at the same time make some kind of small difference in the world.
Yeah, and it's really here's part of the education that if I can participate in one thing in my life, it would be getting these types of educational tools out to
Mhm.
everybody,
Yeah.
because everyone has had an experience where they show up on a phone call or in person
Yeah.
or on a Zoom or whatever, and they just feel like, oh, something's off. I don't know
Mhm.
what it is about this person,
Yeah.
but it just doesn't feel right. You know,
Yeah.
sometimes you could talk about a first date and
Mm-hmm.
you sit down and you just know, oh, wow, this is,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter how they look. It doesn't matter anything. It just
Mm-hmm.
doesn't feel good. It feels off.
Yeah.
And people go, oh, that's just intuition. That's a gut feeling. It's whatever people
Mm-hmm.
want to call it.
Yeah.
But the truth, the reality is the science is that your frequency is not matching with that person's frequency.
Oh, okay.
It's not a you could call it a gut feeling, but a gut feeling is really just eh, it's watering down the
Mm-hmm.
reality that says you as a human being, your frequency is not matching that person's
Another person.
frequency. And it's like two violinists
Mm-hmm.
trying to play a song together, and they're in completely different keys.
Mm-hmm.
And you're
Mm-hmm.
sitting there and it's like someone scratching a chalkboard.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
horrible, right?
Yeah.
But it's really true. And the thing is, if you're someone who is totally lost and confused,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe you're causing your own self-harm, whether it be through drugs, alcohol, and TV, and whatever it is
Mm-hmm.
that you're doing to kind of lose yourself more, you're literally dimming your frequency. And
Yeah.
so someone who shows up like that, it actually might be more difficult to sense people around you. You might actually be more likely, you actually are more likely to get into a bad situation
Yeah, it's a good
or
point.
or connect with a bad person
Mm-hmm.
because your vibration is simply so low. And
Mm-hmm.
so as you start to show up more and more and more into your own frequency,
Mm-hmm.
it is like going to a restaurant and ordering a steak,
Mm-hmm.
and they bring out a piece of chicken and you're like, I ordered a steak. I know that this isn't steak. This is chicken. It's that real.
It's a good comparison. I'm gonna actually have to go. I'm gonna pause to go and get my charger before the. Thank you for that, Brian. Technology battery was about to die, and this is too good. I didn't want to have to lose it. But I like the analogy of you're going to a restaurant, you're ordering steak, they come out with a chicken. You're like, this is not what I ordered.
Yeah, yeah,
and
exactly.
and when you know yourself, when you have enough self-confidence to be able to articulate that, that does take some courage as well, right? As once you start to know who you truly are, what you want, what you don't want, then you're able to articulate it. You got some people who knows that the order is messed up. It's not what they had ordered, but will sit there and just eat through it and then be resentful.
Exactly. And that's really why, my business is called No Shift Own,
Yes.
but it's short for Know Your Body,
Yeah.
Shift Your Mind, Own Your Future. And there's a reason that it's in that order, and it's because
Mhm.
Know Your Body has to be the first thing.
Yeah.
Has to be, because you can't get to the next steps successfully if you don't start there.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing that's really important to me is that because of my background and who my dad is as a pioneer in the health, health and wellness, functional
Mm-hmm.
nutrition,
Mm-hmm.
functional medicine, um, I was exposed to a lot of people who were really seen as masters and experts across so many modalities, whether it be functional medicine or psychics or coaches or self-improvement gurus. And um, I was actually able to meet these people behind the
Mm-hmm.
curtain, so to speak. And so I witnessed a lot of people that the world saw as like gurus or
Mm-hmm.
perfect human beings.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just people. And,
Mm-hmm.
and some of them were exceptionally flawed. And people would be terrified to know who these people really are.
Yeah.
And that was a very that was a big, it wasn't a turning point or moment, it was a multitude of experiences that really led me to to want to live my life where if I'm coaching someone or I'm bringing strategy into a business, it's not something that I read in a book. It's not
Mhm.
something that I believe might work based on something I read or some opinion I heard. It's through my own experience, and
Mhm.
then it's compounded by other people's experiences and books and educational tools and masters and experts.
Mhm.
But I think too many people um, claim that something's true
Mhm.
and they only read it
Mhm.
or they only got taught it by someone else.
Yeah.
And then they just regurgitate it without actually experiencing it and learning through it and growing through it and experiencing the difficulties and the challenges. And so, you know, I always say that nothing I do
Mhm.
is unique or special. It's all out there.
Yeah.
People say it in different ways, but it's really it is through my own experience, and it's
Mhm.
through my own my own long list of failures and challenges. And so that's where, you spoke about creating authentic connection.
Mhm.
It's when you connect with people through an authentic experience
Mhm.
because you've actually gone through the things that you're talking about,
Mhm.
that's how that becomes possible.
Yeah.
And when you're in flow energetically, you can really feel it. And it's
Mhm.
it's it's why we're on this
Mhm.
podcast together,
Yeah.
right? Because it's
Yeah.
like we were able to see and feel and
Mhm.
know, okay, there's an energetic alignment there.
Yes.
But if we hadn't spent time
Mhm.
in the darkness and in the depths of our own experience of our life,
Yeah.
we couldn't have connected there. So
Mhm.
it's not to say this is all butterflies and roses and
Mhm.
strawberries dipped in chocolate. It's like there's been a lot of darkness, a lot of failure, and a lot of struggle.
Yeah.
Um, but I personally have come to a knowing that I had to go through those things, and I'll continue to have to experience things like that so that I can be in a conversation with someone like you. When you shared your story with me,
Mhm.
I got it to the
Yeah.
best degree I could get it as a person,
Mhm.
not you. I got it.
You did. Yeah, I felt you when you got it. It's something that's indescribable. Some people can tell you, I understand your story, but you feel it. They don't get it. And it's whereas with you, you didn't say much, but I felt it that you understood. And that's why it has allowed us to connect at a deeper level and have these amazing conversations. And I also wanted to be able to, like, with your business, which is, I mean, if a business is working from that paradigm, the shift is huge, and we talk about the topic of today is owning up to our past in order to connect at a soulful level. Tell me how you do that in your business, like when you have client coming over, what types of questions or problem they may have, and how do you go about like 2 or 3 tips that you actually offer and try to help them shift and to see things differently.
Yeah, it's a really good question. And the truth is that a lot of people aren't up for it. And so um the truth is that sometimes that can be figured out in one conversation. Sometimes it can take three. Usually I've never really had it happen where it's taken more than three
Mhm.
conversations to figure that out.
Yeah.
Um, but it's in a process of me really asking how up that individual person is, or how up for the leadership or the executive team is of a company
Hmm.
to really shift
Hmm.
the habits that they're currently in, shift
Hmm.
the strategies that they're currently in, because people come to me for two reasons. One is they're totally lost. They
Hmm.
have no idea what to do. And
Hmm.
that's one type of working relationship where it's just wiping the slate clean and going, pretty much everything you're doing isn't working.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to get very, very, very clear on all of that. And we need to dig into all the uncomfortable stuff. And we're going to have some really, really personal conversations, because we need to figure that stuff out. And that's why I have to be someone that can be trusted at a really deep, intimate level, because I can't help you if we keep it surface level, because keeping it surface level isn't working. And there are things that are blocking whoever that is, whether it's a person or a business, from getting where they want to go. So it's a deep, deep dive into the habits and the mentality that have created the current situation.
Yeah.
Acknowledging it, not saying it's bad, not saying that it's wrong, not putting any emotion to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just acknowledging it, and then taking the most minute, different step and different direction to start changing the paradigm. And then you start to grow from there. And then there's the individual of the business who says, hey, we've got a lot of this figured out, and we need to hone in. We feel like we haven't figured out how to go from
the sweet spot,
let's say 7 figures a year to like 8 and plus. It's those people. I always like to talk about, I'm a sports guy, right? So I look at someone like Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant, who they actually hired the same trainer.
Okay.
And the reason why Kobe Bryant hired the trainer that trained Michael Jordan is because when Michael Jordan hired this individual, Michael Jordan did not allow any other human being on planet Earth to work with this guy. Because that guy really helped Michael Jordan be who he was. And when Michael Jordan retired, Kobe Bryant said, I need that guy. And why did they hire that guy? Because he was able to hone and tone and just take them a fraction more in the elite level of their sport and their skill set.
Yeah.
And so there's no comparison to the trainer of Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, but it's just to say that some individuals and some businesses are in a state where they actually are achieving, they actually have, mastery or a very high skill set in their craft or in their mode of business. And they're looking to just get 5% better the next year or 1% better the next year. So it's both. And the truth is that it's a lot of the same stuff, whether you're totally confused and lost, or you're just looking for an incremental. Just on this side with the incremental, it's kind of taking what you're already doing it and just focusing it, laser focusing it, where someone who's really just trying to figure out from being lost to in flow, there's just a much wider set of things that have to get in order.
And like when you mentioned just a small little minute change to shift the paradigm, it's so crucial, because I remember a team of Olympic in Canada when they won the race, I forgot. So what they did was they practiced and rehearsed and did the visualization. What they did different from another team is how they start off the course, how they pass on the baton, like it's like a race, like it's a relay with
Relay race,
4 people. And they just minutely, slightly alter the way they do it. And that was what gave them the winning position. And it's the same thing when you actually are racing. All you need is a few second difference to become like the gold medalist. So if you can just shift by a little, shifting your thinking just slightly, don't ever underestimate it, because it is so powerful. And I like the fact that you mentioned that everything comes down from the way you perceive things, how you think, and your habits of every day. So talk to me about habit, Brian, because you're a sport guy.
Yeah.
has everything to do with the career, the success, the path that you want to go.
I totally nerd out on this topic. It's what lights me up. And truthfully, the most important habit in my life
Mm-hmm.
is that I have an alarm that goes off Monday through Friday at
Mm-hmm.
6 a.m.
Wow.
That is the most important habit in my life. That habit single-handedly shifted my life into a better state, that
Mm.
I'm now just evolving and trying to figure out ways to just tweak a little bit, little bit, little bit, little bit. And I'll do that for as long as I live. That's the game that I want to play.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so that's a habit that worked for me, but there's actually there there's a reason that it worked for me. And it was when I was in a place in my life where I was feeling like I was in this terrible cycle where whether it was a week or a month or even a year, and I found, oh, gosh, I'm in the same place and I've got the same issues and difficulties, and
Mm-hmm.
they just keep happening. How do I get out of this?
Mm-hmm.
And what I realized was that I needed to make an incremental shift. I had tried so many times to do something for 30 days or a week or
Mm-hmm.
6 months, and it just didn't work. And that's a, we could talk for weeks about about how many things in my life didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
This is about trying to find the little things that did work.
Yeah.
And what I figured out was, well, gosh, for most of my life, I had to get up at a certain time,
Mm-hmm.
right? I had to get to school. The alarm went off and I had to get up.
Mm-hmm.
I have a job. My
Mm-hmm.
alarm goes off. I have to go.
Mm-hmm.
So as I looked back into my life, I said, what is something that I've already done
Mm-hmm.
that I know would be beneficial in my life moving forward? And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, okay, I've gotten up when my alarm has gone off for probably 20 years of my life.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to stick with that habit because I know that if I set an alarm for 6 a.m., that gives me 3 hours
Mm-hmm.
prior to me
Mm-hmm.
having to engage in work.
Yeah.
3 hours to do all of those things like meditating and stretching,
Mm-hmm.
drinking water, eating healthy food, working
Yeah.
out, journaling,
Yeah.
all those things that any expert on planet Earth is going to tell you to do to be exceptional. Well, I just gave myself 3 hours to do it 5 days a week. And I never said, okay, I'm going to get up at 6 a.m. and I'm going to eat good and drink this amount of water and exercise and do all these things. My innate nature was able to start to
Mm-hmm.
do things because there's something in me that wants to be a kind person, that wants to be a good person, that wants to provide for
Yeah.
my family and loved ones.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, well, I can only do those things better if I become stronger in my own abilities in life.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't have to try that hard to not just sit around watching TV from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm telling you, the first day that I got up,
Mm-hmm.
I got a lot less done than when I got up at 6 a.m. this morning.
Mm-hmm.
There's a huge difference between that first day and today,
Mm-hmm.
but I did it.
Mm-hmm.
And I've continued to do that. And so my invitation always, if I was working with someone, we would really take as much time as we needed to figure out what that one habit's going to be
Mm-hmm.
and make sure that it's something that they can do.
Mm-hmm.
Because if there's resistance to it, if it's like, well, I'm not going to go to a bar for a year. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, maybe that's the one thing. Maybe that's the one thing for you,
Yeah.
but let's make sure it's the one thing, because
Mm-hmm.
if you're a social person and you enjoy hanging out with family and friends and going on dates or taking your partner out for a date, you might go to a bar in the next year. So maybe that's not the habit to choose.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really about the self-discovery of what is that one thing to start shifting your life in a better direction. For me, it was waking up at 6 a.m.
But it's a great point because there is the club called the 5 o'clock club. It's like
Oh
the
yes, I've heard of
Obamas,
it.
all
Yeah.
of that. All of these success people are part of the 5 o'clock club, and it really does make a huge difference. Um, and I like the fact you just said just narrow down on one habit. It really has a trigger effect on every aspect of your life. Like ever since I started giving myself the opportunity, non-negotiable. It started off with something really innocent of uh gonna be turning 41 in February and wanting to live till 90 years old with my boyfriend in the best shape that I can possibly be. So if
Mm,
I don't start at 41, I'll never want to. So so I said I'm gonna work towards working out 6 days a week every week for the next year. And the good thing is that I use my own strength. So I know I'm the type of person when I commit to something, I stick to my commitment.
mm,
Sometime I drift off for sure, and then I come back on track. But usually, I would say 85% of the time that when I do commit, 85 to 90% of the time when I do commit to something, I really stick through till the end. And so I started before the kids wake up in the morning. I'm not there yet at 6 o'clock in the morning, waking up at 6, but that will be my next thing. You have inspired me. I will start testing out the 6 o'clock in the morning.
I
I
love it.
wake up at 6:40 and and so every morning I go and I give myself an hour free of just working out. And I know the way my body works is that I burn more calorie in the morning and throughout the rest of the day if I do a workout. And so I feel like I'm constantly without having to do a whole lot, continue to have my metabolism working very hard for me, which is good. And repetition, repetition, repetition becomes part of your identity of who you are as well. You no longer fight it. At the beginning, it was very difficult. Like you had mentioned, when you woke up at 6 in the morning, less productive on first day compared to where you are now. And it was the same thing for me. The first time when I did go to do my workout, I committed to if I can get down to the basement for 15 minutes today, it's already better than zero. And
Hmm.
so the first week was only getting downstairs to the basement, working 15 to 20 minutes twice a week. And then I increased the increment. I never overdo it because I remember a trainer told me at the gym, when you want to work out, you want to keep that hunger. You don't want to overdo it. People go and work out and they overexert themselves and they put everything and then they burn flat out and they hate it and they never go back. So he goes, start off slow, eat it, taste it, enjoy it so that that hunger is always there. So when I do that now, I'm on week, 18 or 19, and I never thought I would make it that far, but I'm in week 18 of working out 6 days a week. And I am super proud of myself because when that alarm goes off, I hit it. I don't give myself the permission to stay in bed. I head downstairs. Sometimes I give myself a little leeways when I'm like on the fifth day of working out. So the sixth day, I'll give my extra, which is okay. I think it's important to listen to your body. Some day you're more stressed, you're more tired than other. It's the fact that you still go and do it anyway. Like there are
Hmm.
days when I don't feel motivated to go, but I do know what I should not settle for. Like on a Monday, it's a no-brainer. Whether I like it, don't like it, it start off the rest of my week. This week on Monday, I didn't feel like working out, gave myself no option. More reason to go work out now, Ree. So,
Well, it's
yeah.
such an important point. And it's, really if there was one thing in our conversation today that I
Yeah.
could impart on anyone that would listen to this, it would be take a look at your own life
Yeah.
and think back on all the times that you got out of your comfort zone, or you did something really challenging to please somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Think about the amount of times that you really stretched yourself to get someone to like you or even love you. I can personally think of, again, thousands of times where I so wanted to go above and beyond
Mm-hmm.
to be a knight in shining armor, to,
Yeah.
buy the roses and the gift and write the card and
Mm-hmm.
just create an experience for someone that they would never forget.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've realized in my own journey is that I actually could do all of those things at a far greater capacity
Mm-hmm.
if I actually focused on falling in love with myself. And I can't tell you the amount of love that I've been able to develop for myself,
Yeah.
because in the face of tiredness and adversity and discomfort, I stick to that one commitment
Mm-hmm.
and it never fails.
Mm-hmm.
I never feel worse
Mm-hmm.
after I get up and I meditate and I stretch and
Mm-hmm.
I work out. For a lot of people who, exercise is something that is important.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my invitation is, if you can do a push up,
Mm-hmm.
start with one push up.
Mm-hmm.
Push ups are the type of thing where it's an exercise where you see it.
Yeah.
If you do one push up a day for 10 days,
Mm-hmm.
your body is going to look a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
And after 10 days, I promise you, as long as you don't have some kind of disability or some kind of
Mm-hmm.
physical challenge, you're going to be able to do 2 push ups.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's something that is in your wheelhouse to do,
Mm-hmm.
that's another habit that you could stick to that's going to compound over time. And if you're someone that's doing however many push-ups, of whether it's 5, maybe it turns into 10, maybe it turns into 100,
Mm-hmm.
and you're someone doing 100 push-ups a day for
Mm-hmm.
an entire year, you're going to look in that mirror and you're going to be like, yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Look what I did for myself.
Yeah.
This wasn't a selfish thing. This wasn't an ego thing.
Yeah.
This was what my body needed.
Mm-hmm.
And so my one of the biggest and most important self discoveries for me is that my number one commitment to myself is that I always give myself opportunities every day to fall in love with myself. It allows me to be a better person for anyone in my life.
I love that you said that because it's so perfect for what I do with Leader for True Love, which we had discussed about is falling in love unconditionally. Well, it feels like in the evening, the wordings are just slipping through me unconditionally for oneself.
Yeah.
And then once you get the clarity and the self-discovery, have fun with the discovery. It's so fun to discover who you are. It's like, who's this human being? When I am discovering Ria, it's like, who's she? She's
Hmm.
cool. I'm like, there's so many facets of her that I didn't know about. And so when you make it fun, it is so good. And fall in love with yourself. I love that you said that, Brian, because it is so, so good. Um, when you give yourself that permission to wake up at 6 and then do the meditation, do the writing, do your exercise, that's your own self-love to tending to self-care. And without knowing, but you made it more clear to me now because what you spoke in terms of the reward and the result that I'm reaping from that is that not knowing what I committed to had such a huger, wider impact. It started off with something so innocent to all of a sudden me looking in the mirror, falling in love with myself. And I wasn't doing that to impress my boyfriend. I wasn't doing that to impress social media or the people that I have or my audience. I did that as an honor to myself and as a commitment to what I say I would do. But the result that I reap from that, it is so huge. Like to feel good in my own skin when I'm done working out, I feel like $1 million.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
feel amazing in my body. I feel like a winner. And so I see my thinking shift completely every problem I encounter is seen from a different angle. I show up at a different level, like you mentioned. And the sex life has never been more amazing.
That's a good motivation. Most people are very motivated by that.
Exactly. And it had to start with me because my boyfriend and I, we committed to starting and being healthy together, and he had a hard time starting it. And I said, well, just because he's not doing it, I could have easily said, well, we had promised to do it together. If he's not going to start, you'd be demotivated. But I said, you know what? This is a gift for me, not for anybody else. Whether he comes along or he doesn't come along when he wants to join at some point, great. But until then, I'm going to offer myself this present. And so I started, and now he's at this last week, he was working out 4 days a week. And this week he's
Mm,
going to get there too. So all that to say, when you're loving on yourself, that energy, that vibration get carried over to the people around you, and you show up at a different vibration, at a different caliber. So thank you for pointing that out.
yeah, these things are so they're so simple, and it's really I think they're simple to I always think about this in my own adventure of life. It's like these things are so simple, and yet why do so few people do them?
Mm,
And I think it's really that's what makes life an adventure. It's like, well, are you up for it?
mhm,
Are you someone who's up for pushing away the distractions? And now more than ever, there's more distractions, and so
mm,
it's there's more people and there's more distractions.
mhm,
And so for someone to have the self-awareness and the self-confidence to start making those tiny, tiny decisions,
yeah,
those fractional shifts
mhm,
that start moving them in the direction they ultimately want to go,
yeah,
it does take courage and it
mm,
does take time and it takes energy, but it's so worth it with all the pain and suffering and anxiety and confusion. This is one of the most fundamental tools
yeah,
to get away from all of that.
mhm,
And there's absolutely other pieces to the pie,
mhm,
but if you're someone who doesn't have personal responsibility, it doesn't matter if you do all the other stuff.
yeah,
You
yeah,
will fail in the
yeah,
end. Now, if you have the personal responsibility and you add those other things,
mhm,
that will actually elevate everything else that
mhm,
you're doing.
mhm,
And that's part of the hamster wheel of being a human, is that um it's part of our nature to also go for the easy thing.
yeah,
It's just part of who we are. There's that instinct to eat when it's in front of you and to make impulsive decisions.
mhm,
It takes a conscious human being
mhm,
to actually utilize what makes us a miracle as a human, which is the ability to make a decision,
yeah,
make a conscious decision.
yeah,
And so to make a conscious decision, it takes work and it takes practice. And
yeah.
it's about everything that we've talked about today.
Yeah, and I wanna just close this up, and we're coming close to the hours, in the sense that what you have point out is it's huge. Like, we're just diving. There's so much layer to that. But it's so juicy. Like, honestly, Brian, I could talk to you for days. Uh, but start off with something that you think you can commit long term, that doesn't take too much effort. You built your resilience to it. Like, I didn't think that at week one that I'd be able to even reach to working 6 days a week, or even get to my 18 weeks. Like, I saw 1 year commitment as like 52 weeks in a year. That's impossible. But if you think like that, you're doomed to fail. So start off small. And as you do the practice, you gain more and more confidence. You become better at it. And so never ever compare your rate your rhythm with somebody else who's at another level. And as normal human nature, it's okay to have like some kind of comparison to gauge where you're at, but it becomes at a level where it's negative and toxic to you, then it's not serving its purpose, and you need to reassess that. I love competition. Like, I'm a sport girl, so bring on the competition. I just want to see how far I can push this thing. Like, bring it on, game on.
And your best competitor is yourself.
Yes, yes.
You know, that's the truth. And to what you were saying, it's really compete with yourself to keep that commitment tomorrow,
Yes.
and then do it
Exactly.
again and do it again and do it again. You know, I find, again, in my own experience, trying the 30 days and the 6 months and all those commitments never ever worked for me,
Yeah.
because it allowed me to fall into the place of comparing to other people. It allowed me to fall into my worst habits, to say, oh my gosh, another 28 days, another few
Mm-hmm.
months.
Mm-hmm.
And now I have put all this time in, and all I did was go, tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
If I can keep this promise to myself tomorrow,
Yeah.
that's a win.
Yes.
And then, you know, sometimes people like financial terms. It's like, okay, if you put your money, you know, into a fund that compounds 1% year after year,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to make a lot of money over a lifetime. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, these things are right in front of us all the time, and we see that they work.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just about making it work for you.
Mm-hmm.
And that takes knowing who you are.
Absolutely.
So knowing who I am, it was like, I can wake up when the alarm goes off. And
Yes.
that one habit completely changed my whole life.
Yeah. And remember the compound effect, because it is magnifying. And
Yeah.
like you said it, like, if you just put away, there's a beautiful story of a lady who's 90 years old, poor. She works as a laundry person, and she would put away, I don't know, like, it was a few dollar, $10, $15 or $20 every single week. And she had very little, and she saved up till the compound at the bank. She would go to the bank, deposit her money and all of that. And when she got to 90, that little $20 that she would deposit was worth over a couple $1 million. And she not kept 1 cent of that money. She gave it to scholarship for children and so on.
Awesome.
So remember, it all starts with small little compound effect, but over time, it really adds up to huge, because I know it now. Like, it was one thing to read it in a book. It's another thing to live it, knowing the compound effect of looking back 18 weeks going, holy shit, because I see the transformation on my body. I'm going, damn, this thing really does work. So
Exactly.
start off with some small commitment that you're willing to stick with, and make it fun. When
Hmm.
it's fun, you want to commit to it. And the other thing that you said, stick to that commitment for one more day. There's a great book called Just One More, something about the one
Hmm.
more. And it's just doing it and go, I wonder if I can do it just one more, and another one more, and another one more. And the next thing you know, you're already at the finish line going, did I just already arrive here? There you go. So we want to be able to close this up. I want to be able to highlight any kind of programs or training and whatever you have, Brian, that may be coming up, because we're probably, because I have a few guests before. So in 5 weeks time, what are some of the stuff that you have that you would like to share with the audience?
So I would say, so one of my partners right now is the Joint Venture Directory. And this is a place where holistic, heart-centered entrepreneurs from all over the world get to gather
Yes.
and create aligned partnerships that allow for truly high impact collaborations that
Mm-hmm.
really do serve the world. So I would say, um, if you're someone that aligns with that,
Mm-hmm.
please reach out to me. You can find me at Brian at jvdirectory.com.
Mm-hmm.
And you can reach out to me there. You can also connect with me if you have something beyond that. please, I love meeting people.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the
Mm-hmm.
greatest joys of my life. Just find just find me via email,
Mm-hmm.
no.shift.own@gmail.com. And I'm sure Ree, you'll make those things available.
Yes, I will share all of that. And JV Directory is joint venture. Directory is an amazing organization which I'm a part of. And they really offer quality materials and experience, and they're really there to try to create a collaboration where other business owner can all help each other elevate and excel. So this is how Brian and I connected, and I'm so grateful for that. Brian, I want to let you go on a quote that has served you well in your lifetime that you would like to share with us.
I would love to. So I think there's no reason to re-say or rechange the words that Mr. Aristotle said many years ago, and he says it very simply. We are what we repeatedly do.
Mm-hmm.
Excellence then is not an act, but a habit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love it. I love Aristotle. You don't get old of hearing it.
No.
When I saw that, when you wrote that, I was like, couldn't be more perfect. And thank you for the treasure that you gave me for today. I am starting as of next week, committing to waking up at 6 in the morning. I'm gonna give it a test try. And I'm not
Cool.
holding and you know, when you do these things, guys,
Yeah, try it
don't
out.
have like a huge expectation, because then you feel like you're gonna fail. Like automatically your brain going, yeah, you can't do it, then you're gonna fail. So what I do to counter my brain that goes, you're not gonna be able to wake up at 6, I go, I'm gonna give it a try. I'm gonna wake up at 6, see how that goes. And it's a one commitment that I'm making to myself, and I'm going to try to stick to it. If I can do it just for that one day, see how that goes. And what I tell myself to really pump me up is, hey, how about we make this fun? And when I say that to myself, I'm excited about waking up at 6 in the morning.
Exactly. I love it.
Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much,
much. Yeah.
Brian.
Thank
Thank
you for
you.
having me. I
And
really
guys, I
appreciate it.
hope that you guys, sorry, I kind of cut you off there, Brian. Go ahead.
No, I just thank you. I really appreciate you having me. And in the spirit of the holidays, just I hope that people are finding some comfort and joy. I know they'll be listening to this in the new year, but wherever you are in 2023 when you hear this, just know that we recorded this mid-holiday season. And wherever you hear this, I hope that it lands in your heart. And thank you, Ree, for having me.
Oh, thank you so much, Brian. And really for 2023 for you guys, I got like, it feels like a crystal ball up there next to my Christmas tree. And purposely, I wore a bling bling earring for you, Brian. So
Yes, I love
bringing in
it.
the new year.
Yes.
So I'm hoping for everybody for a magnificent 2023, good health, a lot of success, finding clarity, loving on yourself, and hopefully you find peace in mind and just prosperity, and have good friendships and people that you're well surrounded. Thank you so much, everybody.